Good morning, everyone. We will
Good
wait for
morning, sir.
good morning,
Good
good
morning.
morning, good morning. So far, 10 students have joined. We'll just wait for 1-2 minutes and then we will start with the today's session. Yes, I think we should start. Strength seems to be less. Still, we will start. Hope others will join in soon. So during our first lecture, day before yesterday, we had discussed about the course. The name of the course is Corporate Governance. It's a university internal elective course. So we had started with what is the meaning of corporate governance. Quickly, we will take a look till others also join in that what we had discussed in the last lecture. So we discussed in the last lecture what is corporate and what is governance. Corporate is any business entity which is doing business, and governance is the way that business entity functions, that business house functions, is called as corporate governance. Technically, if we go to the definition, the term corporate governance includes the structure, system, or the process or procedures of a business entity or a company which uses to communicate authority, responsibility, accountability among its all the stakeholders. Good corporate governance is one which balances the interest of various stock stakeholders, namely company, employees, government, suppliers, owners, customers, to ensure long-term relationship and success of a corporate venture. So that is corporate governance. Now, before we move ahead, we should know that there is a differentiation between corporate governance and corporate management. That differentiation is that corporate governance is considered as mind of the organization, whereas corporate management is considered as the hands of the organization. The role of the board of directors is to direct the organization, whereas the role of the managers who are part of corporate management Their role is to manage the day-to-day functioning of the organization. In corporate governance, the board members formulate policies regarding diversification of business of that organization or expansion of business of that organization on any other policy which should be implemented for the benefit of the organization. Now all these policies are formulated at the level of board of directors of that organization, and that includes the part of corporate governance. They are governing, they are supervising whether the organization is moving in the right direction or not. So policy making is the job which comes under corporate governance. When we talk about implementing those policies which are formed by the board of directors, we can say that it is the job of corporate management, that is managers, that is the day-to-day management of the organization, which is supposed to implement the policies formed at the top level, that is board of director, comes under corporate governance. So that was the differentiation between corporate governance and corporate management. Now, why it was needed that there should be a code of corporate governance? Earlier, the rules and regulation to carry out business were not so rigid or were not saving the interest of the common stakeholders. Common stakeholder includes the general shareholders of the organization. So their rights were not that much protected before 1992. So in 1992, it was realized by the government that the government should step in and the government should have a code of conduct for corporate governance. And in 1992, a very disruptive kind of thing happened for the Indian business, and that disruption was caused by a person who was called as Big Bull, and his name was Harshad Mehta. Now, I think everybody would be aware of the role of Harshad Mehta. So, Harshad
Yes, sir.
Mehta was, yes, very good. So, Harshad Mehta was involved in one of the biggest stock scams. So, what he used to do is he used to manipulate the stock prices, and people used to think as the company is doing good, they used to invest. The general stakeholders, the general shareholders used to invest depending upon seeing that the company is doing really well. So what used to happen is he used to play with the numbers because the rules were not very strict, and he used to manipulate the prices of shares. Not only the shares of new companies, but he used to manipulate the shares of renowned companies at that particular time. And that included Tata Iron and Steel, that is Tisco, then BPL Industries, Sterlite Industries, Videocon Industries, Apollo Tires, Reliance Industries, ACC, and many more. So not only the new companies he used to manipulate the shares with, but he used to manipulate the shares of existing giants also. And people used to think that these companies are doing good. So they used to buy the shares of those companies. And all of a sudden in 1992, we all know that how the stock market, that is Bombay Stock Exchange, went crashing, or it crashed. And because of that, thousands and lakhs of people lost their hard earned money. The share value got around zero, or it was very less, and people suffered a lot. So government thought in 1992 that it should set up a committee, and a committee was set up, which was called set up under CII, Confederation of Indian Industries, and the committee suggested that there has to be a code of corporate governance. At that particular, that was one case which insisted that government should set up various committees to reform the corporate governance in Indian companies. The other very important case is Satyam Computer System. Satyam Computers was considered as one of the fastest and largest growing computer company in India. It was led by Mr. Ramlinga Raju. This company was started in the year 1987, and it was doing really good till say 2005 or 2006. In 2009, Mr. Ramalinga Raju confessed that he manipulated with the balance sheet of the company, with the stock prices of the company, with the profits earned by the company to get more and more investment or to raise capital for the expansion of the company. And that was considered as Satyam computer scam. So because of such scams, it was realized by the government that there has to be certain code of conduct under corporate governance, and SEBI came up with this code of conduct which says that the financial disclosures are must for all the organizations who are operating in the Indian business environment. Now, these code of conduct of corporate governance says that every organization should publish an annual financial report which should include. Now, this corporate governance report should include the following points: how the decisions are taken by the board in that particular company. Then it should also include the names of chairman, CEO, and other directors of that particular company. Then it should include the number of meetings and individual attendance by the directors for each and every meeting. It should not happen that board of directors are there, say 10 directors are there, but only 2 directors are meeting and they are taking decisions, and rest are just working as their signatory directors. Files are sent to those directors and they are supposed to sign only. So to curb such type of malpractices, one more thing was added, and that was that the number of meetings by a individual director attended during the last year has to be there in the annual report, which is to be published annually by each and every organization which are working in India, which are listed. Now then, what else is included in annual report is how performance evaluation of board has been made. Then the steps taken by board to develop an understanding of views of major shareholders about their company, how they are promoting their company, how they are say making their company grow. Everything should be included in this annual report. Plus, the most important thing is the annual report should also include work of nomination committee and remuneration. Now, this remuneration committee again plays a very important role. Now, how much salary should be given to a CEO? That should be included in this report, and justification should also be included in this report. It should not happen that the board of directors are very closely related to the CEO of the organization, or the person who is managing the affairs of the company, the general manager, CEO, or whatever the designation is getting salary because of his closeness and not because of his performance in the organization. So everything should be included in disclosure norms, and this was made compulsory under SEBI by the committees which were set up by the government, and they suggested, and SEBI started implementing these suggestions. Now here, one more thing was included is the rights given to the corporations. There were certain rights which were given to the corporations. I think that you must be able to recall last semester we had studied legal aspects of business, or not last semester, I think it was in first semester when we studied uh, legal aspects of business. In legal aspects of business, chapter number 4 was related to Companies Act. So that Companies Act had there we had discussed the rights of company, and the rights of company or the rights of corporation are nothing but same. We will quickly have a look of what are the rights which are given to a corporation or a company or a business entity. The right number 1 is the ability to sue and be sued. I think everybody knows what is the meaning of sue and what is the meaning of sued. If you are able to recall what we had discussed in our first semester, legal aspects of business. So the ability to sue and the ability to sue. Next is the ability to hold assets in its own name. The company can hold assets, they can purchase assets in its own name. The ability to hire agents, that means they can recruit people who will be managing that particular organization, and that is included in the ability to hire agent. The ability to sign contracts. Now the company is also considered as an artificial person. The right is conferred on the company that it can sign contract on its behalf with the other company. And next is the ability to make bylaws to govern internal affairs. Now, laws and bylaws. Laws which are, we can say that under company laws, the various rules and regulations are framed which are to be adhered by the company which are working under Companies Act. But the right has been given to the companies that they can prepare a bylaw. Bylaw means a similar type of law, or we can say that small rules and regulation which are related to those laws can be framed by the companies. Suppose if the law says that 8-hour shift should be there. Now bylaw can be that it can be 8 to 4, it can be 9 to 5, or it can be other way, right? So that is the difference between. So these are the various rights which are given to the corporations or companies or business entities. Now we will move on to yes, Priyanka.
Yeah, sir, I have a
I
question
think
on that.
yes, please
You have
go
just
ahead.
mentioned that the corporate world have to disclose their financial reports, right?
Yes,
So,
yes, yes.
who monitor means who audit that report means like just a case happen with Infosys uh, uh, that an auditor has file a case that they are uploading fake reports just to increase
Yes,
their investment. So, is there any law in the SEBI that anyone audit?
yes, yes. Independent auditors, company auditors are there who will be preparing the general audit report, which will be displayed in the annual report of that particular organization. And independent auditors also are also there who work independently for that company. They are not controlled either by the board of directors or by the corporate management, that is the general management which is running that particular organization. In the next chapter, when we will be discussing the role and responsibility of board of directors, auditors, then we will take up this issue in detail. But right now, I can tell you that independent auditors are appointed and there is a law which appoints independent auditors, and they have every right to audit the balance sheets or audit the financial report which is published under the annual report by the organization, and they are not controlled by any of the person who is working in the organization or the board of director of that particular organization. Yes, anything else?
Sir, Karan here.
Yes, Karan.
As Priyanka stated, sir, that one of the auditor had filed case against that Infosys.
Yes.
So, as you said right now again, that none of the auditor is in direct contact with that firm or anything. But I think in current scenario, the company
Yes.
which appoints a company as a CEO or auditor, then few things
No,
are
there are
adjustable.
two types of auditors, Karan.
One is
Internal auditors
one is
has to be there.
Yes.
Internal has to be there. External are the auditors which are not controlled by the organization. They can submit their reports to SEBI. They can submit their reports to the various government organizations, and
But
action can be taken against any organization which is misleading the general public or which is manipulating the financial reports or financial data of that particular organization. It is there.
but
And yes,
actually, I wanted to say that internal auditor is a person who is working in the organization, right?
yes,
And
yes,
external auditor is a person whom the company has appointed to see the all legal statement.
yes.
So what I wanted to say basically, these outside
See,
firms or external auditors are also managed. Why I'm saying this? Because there is one company basically, Sharat Shah and Company, who looks the auditing for Symbiosis College. So there was between a internal case for few FDs and college few students, which was actually not leaked outside, and it was managed internally by the CA team as well as that Symbiosis College. So this
Nay,
what
what
basically I want to
we
say.
will stick to the ethical practices and the code of general code of corporate governance.
Okay.
Now, what we can say is every law, we all know that every law has a loophole. And
Right.
if an independent auditor is managed by an organization, that will be considered as an unethical practice.
Right.
So till it is managed carefully, people will not able to come to know what is happening in that particular company. But once it comes out, then only we come to know. Now Harshad Mehta was manipulating with the shares for last so many years, but in 1992 the government and everyone realized that what is happening when the entire Bombay Stock Exchange crashed down. Similarly, Satyam Raju, Satyam Computer, which was one of the largest and fastest growing computer system company in India and which was highly ranked world over, he was playing with the financial details for the last 2 3 years. He had
Right.
confessed that for last 2 3 years he was manipulating, but in 2009 it was realized that he is manipulating when it is not that in 3 years back there was no audit. Every year audit was done, and every year report were also submitted by independent auditors and by company auditors that everything is fine in the company. Later
Right.
on, when somebody else audited, every time it is not that only one auditor is. Now there is a provision of independent audits also. SEBI can also appoint a independent audit if they come to know that some irregularities are happening in the company. SEBI is given a power that they can regulate, they can appoint under companies law, under companies act. The recent amendment which was done in 2001, there is a provision that independent auditors can be appointed by the government to look into the financial regularities or irregularities of a particular company. So now Everything is there on paper, but there can be some, say, irregularities that may take place. So we will not go into those kind of things, because in law what it says is that ethical practices should be followed. Ethical means whatever you are writing on paper, that you will be following these policies which you have made, which are related to your vision, which are related to your mission. So it is expected that each and every company should follow the rules and regulations which are not only framed by the government, but which are framed by the organization also. Laws, bylaws, everything they will be followed. It is expected, right? And those who do not follow face action. Now we will move on to the next thing, and that is 5 principles of corporate governance. And these 5 principles are also called as 5 P's of corporate governance. 5 P's. In marketing, we had discussed 4 P's and then 7 P's, and now I think it is 9 P's. But in corporate governance, there are 5 P's. Now, these 5 P's, what these 5 P's are, first P is called as purpose, second P is pride, third P is patience, fourth P is persistence, and fifth P is perspective. Now, first P, purpose, stands for the mission of the organization. Now, first P, purpose, says that the organization should have a mission, it should have a vision, and that mission and vision should be communicated from the top to the bottom. Then only the organization can achieve the vision which is set by the organization. Otherwise, vision will not be achieved if mission is not communicated from top to the bottom of the organization. Now, these mission, the mission statement of the organization should be guided by values, hope, ethics, which are to be followed or which the organization intends to follow in future with related to business of that particular organization. Next is pride. Next P is pride, second P is pride. The second P, pride, stands for that the organization should be proud of itself. It should, and not only the organization, but also all the people who are working in the organization should feel proud to be part of that particular organization. If everyone feels satisfied by working in the organization, they are satisfied with the policies, rules, regulation, and everything or in the organization. If such thing happen, this will resist the temptation of going for some kind of unethical practices. When a person is satisfied, when the person is happy, he will not intend to go in some unethical practice. So that is expected. Next P stands for patience. Now, in patience, the organization should believe in holding to the ethical values. It should not say go to some unethical practice for short term gain. Patience says that we should hold up to the ethical values, ethical principles, and in long term definitely we will be successful. To just gain success in the short span of time, the organization should not go to some sort of unethical practice. So that is covered under patience, third P. Fourth P is persistence. Now, persistence, the meaning itself says that persistence means you need to try, and try. You cannot give one try to a particular task, and if the task is unable to complete, you are leaving down that task. That is not persistence. Persistence means that you are committed, and every time you are giving the same commitment to complete that particular task. So that is persistence. So every person in the organization should be having this quality of persistence. Last one is, last P stands for perspective. Now, in this perspective, the perspective of managers and employees, it says that the managers and employees should take a pause and should take a stock after, say, every month or every 3 months or every 6 months, whatever the policy of the organization is, that what we are now doing presently, where we are, they should evaluate the performance of the organization and determine or direct how they are going to achieve the goal which is set by the organization in its vision. So these are 5 P's which are called as the 5 principal P's of the organization under corporate governance. So last, I think 7-8 minutes are remaining. If you have any query, you can ask, or we can move forward. We can start discussing the committee reports also, but I think it is now say 7 minutes are remaining, so we can have this time for question and answers. You can ask some question. Yes.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Sagar, yes.
Sir, can you please explain in short all the P's once
Acha,
again?
all the okay. Now, as in marketing, you have heard of 4 P's, then 7 P's, and then 9 P's. In corporate governance, it is expected that the organization should have 5 P's in its corporate governance. First P stands for purpose. Purpose is very simple. Why? What is the purpose of the organization for being, for coming into being? That is why the organization is existing. So they should be knowing the mission of the organization, the vision of the organization, and it is expected that the organization should communicate the mission and vision to each and every person of the organization. The values of the organization, then principles of the organization which are included in the mission should be communicated to every person in the organization. Then only we can expect that every person will put his or her effort to move in that direction where they will go, they will be able to achieve the mission and vision set by the organization. Next P stands for pride. Pride is very simple. It is expected that each and every organization member should feel proud to be part of that particular organization. If a person feels proud, when a person feels proud, when the person is satisfied, when the person is happy with the functioning of the organization, with the practices of the organization, with the policies of the organization, and with everything of the organization. And it is said that if a person is happy, his action will move to ethical behavior, and he will not generally move towards some ethical practices. Next is patience. Patience says that the organization should hold its ethical principles very tightly. It should not happen that for a short term gain, the organization has switched to some unethical practice. So that is patience. Persistence means that each and every person of the organization should give persistent effort towards the success of the organization. Persistence means every time same commitment should be given by each and every person of the organization. Last one, perspective. Perspective means that the managers and employees, they should, after say every 1 month or every 3 months, whatever the policy of the organization should, is, they should sit together, they should discuss where they are now standing and where they want to go, and how they can take the organization towards the achievement of goal. And that comes under the fifth P, which is called as perspective. Yes, anything else?
Thank you.
Yes, no question. So we can continue. Now, the concept of corporate governance, in this particular concept, we will be discussing various committees, and mainly we will be discussing the committees which are set by Indian government uh, for the reforms in corporate structure, corporate governance structure in various organizations. So we will be discussing the reports of Kumar Mangalam Birla. We all know who Kumar Mangalam Birla is. Now, what the government or SEBI, what they have done is that many of or majority of the committees are set up under the leadership of a stalwart of Indian industry. So we will be discussing Kumar Mangalam Birla, his committee report. We will also be discussing the report of N.R. Narayan Murthy, chairman, the earlier chairman of Infosys. We will be discussing the report of Confederation of Indian Industry. We will be discussing the report of J.J. Irani Committee. Plus, we will be discussing some major reports of the other countries also. One of the most important report of the world, which gained importance in the field of corporate governance, is the report of Cadbury Committee. So Cadbury is the name of the person who headed that particular committee. He came up with various suggestions, and those suggestions were generally accepted by most of the countries of the world, and they incorporated those suggestions in framing the code of conduct for corporate governance of their particular country. So in the next lecture we will be discussing these committee reports, 3 4 Indian committees and 1 or 2 foreign committee, which plays a very important role in what we can say in defining the rules and of code of corporate governance in India also. Yes, so last 1 or 2 minutes are remaining. So any question? And after the suggestions are over, these committees are over, I'll be sharing a small caselet with you, and what you have to do is just go through that caselet, and at the end of the caselet there will be a question, one question or two question will be there, and that we will be discussed in our next to next lecture. In our next lecture we will be discussing the committees of corporate governance formed by SEBI, and that we will be discussing. After that, I'll send you, once the first chapter is over, I'll send you a caselet, a small sort of case related to what we had discussed related to corporate governance, basics of corporate governance. You need to read that case and try to solve the questions. And then we will have a discussion, a complete discussion in one next to next lecture about that particular case. And that will be a very relevant case. Everybody will be able to understand that case. Yes, any question? Anytime we can get disconnected. Yes. Yes, any question? Yes, I think who has joined for the first time? Sagar has already asked a question. Okay. I think Pooja Kumari has joined for the first time. Yes, Pooja. If you have any query, please.
No, sir.
Okay, no query. Okay, anybody else who is having any query?
No, sir.
Okay, so we will stop here, right? We will stop here, and please note that in the evening session we will be having specialization sessions, specializations of marketing and specialization of finance. These two lectures will be there. One will be at 7:15 and the other one will be 8:15. So it is compulsory for finance and marketing to join their sessions respectively. Marketing students, for marketing session it is compulsory. For finance student appearing in finance session it is compulsory. And the rest student who want to gain knowledge about marketing or about finance, they are very much welcome in these sessions. It is not so that a person who is from say BA, HR or OSCM is not allowed in this session. You can, if you have time, you want to gain knowledge about these subjects, you can anytime join this particular class also, right? And for other specializations, say for HR specialization, uh, as the number is very less, we will not be able to conduct regular lectures. But what we can do is we can have a guidance session. Every week we can have a guidance session. For that, we have prepared a separate HR group also. We have circulated you the syllabus also. Go through the syllabus, go through the subjects which you have to uh, appear for in the examination in HR specialization for HR students, I'm saying. And in case you have any query, write it down and you can send it to me. We can have a common session on Sunday or any day wherever most of the students are comfortable with, and we can clear those doubts related to HR on that particular day. Same case applies to business analytics, same case applies to OSCM also. As the number is very less, we are unable to continue with the regular lectures. So we will be having regular lectures of marketing and finance, right?
Yes, sir.
So we will stop here.